Devin Haney defeats Vasily Lomachenko in a 12th round unanimous decision. I had this fight going the other way, but it was like I was flip flopping between who was gonna win this fight because I thought it was like a fight that was gonna be a little difficult to predict. I had said if Dev goes in there and he fights the same fight that he's been fighting in the last couple of fights, he will lose to Lomachenko. And I was partly wrong. I was partly right, and I was wrong. Because he damn near lost that fight damn near. Okay? Now people are screaming Lomachenko was robbed. Initially, I was like, damn, if Loma wins and if Devin Haney whoops on him for 12 rounds straight, like convincingly, and then Loma just wins, gets the win, then it was robbery. In this case, now everybody's saying that it's the opposite. That Devin Haney's win over Loma was a robbery. So most people are saying Vasily Lomachenko was robbed. All right, Shakur Stevenson, he got in the ring and said the same thing. And I'll talk about that in another video. But right here, we're gonna focus on the fight, okay? And what I think, my conclusion on Devin Haney. Devin Haney's a good fighter. He's one of my favorites. All right, that's not gonna change. I like his style. There are things in the fight. I told everybody that this was gonna be a little different for him. A different element. Early on in the fight, Dev brought it on. The whole fight, actually, man, Devin Haney was working that whole body, man. This is like one of the only fights I've seen Devin Haney really tear up somebody's body, go up to the body a lot. That's what the focal point was for Devin Haney in this fight, was the body attack. Seemed to be working. It did slow Loma up a little bit. Loma was breathing really heavy. I'd never seen Lomachenko breathing like that. And I think that was because of the body shots by Devin Haney. I didn't see Lomachenko physically hurt in this fight. Okay, even though Dev was sitting down on his punches a little bit more, this kind of goes back to what I was trying to tell everybody. Not me, because I'm not an expert, on boxing like that. But people that study the science and have channels that follow Devin Haney and his fighting style, they said the same thing about his foot placement is always awkward, man. It's something about his feet. Not to mention that he doesn't really want to commit to really engaging a lot. You know what I'm saying? He was doing it in this fight to a certain extent, but it just seems like it's just uncomfortable territory for Devin Haney. Like I've always said his inside work ain't, that's his weak point, man. He was trying to go a little toe for Loma in certain spots in that fight. And it just looked like he was getting overwhelmed to me, man. He just looked real sloppy with the inside work, That's something that they got to really work on, man. They got to really work on his inside game. He was getting hit with a lot of lefts. Loma was snapping his head back a lot of times in that fight, man. A lot of times. Towards the end of the fight, Loma, typical fashion, he started to try to pour it on a little bit, and he was being a little dominating towards the end of the fight. Then you had the 12th round, or earlier, I think it was the 11th, man. I think it was a round where Devin Haney, Lomachenko actually hurt Dev, bro. I think it was like the 9th or the 8th round. Devin Haney was hurt. He shook it off. But he got hit really flush with some. I think it was a right hand. But he was visibly hurt in that fight, man, with Loma. Not as bad as like Linares, but his legs were a little uneasy a few times in that fight. I didn't see Loma hurt one time. Maybe if y'all did, I didn't see him hurt. I think the last time I seen Lomachenko hurt, to be honest, I think it was Luke Campbell. Luke Campbell hurt him to the body, I believe, man. I think that's the only time I remember actually seeing him physically hurt, the last time at least. Been hurt other times, but I'm talking about lately. I think the last fight I seen him hurt was Luke Campbell, man. I just think Devin Haney. I had that fight uh, damn near draw, man. You know, or you can even argue Loma. You know, maybe Loma 7-5 Loma. You can even argue that. But if it was a draw, I wouldn't have been really upset with it either. But Haney, the last round is I think what kind of saved him. He showed up in the last round, but he was missing shots too. You know, he looked a little bit more impressive. He was trying to battle back, but I mean, I don't know. I think this fight showed me some other things about Devin Haney, man. This fight here, it showed me that Devin doesn't have another gear, bro. He doesn't have a second gear at all. He don't, man. He don't have a second gear. He can't really put real pressure on somebody. And he doesn't have the ability to get you out of there. He just, to me, I love watching him fight, where it's almost like he's a get by fighter almost, man. You know, good fighter though. Great fighter. Great jab is phenomenal. And speaking of jabs, his jab was damn near almost non-existent the way it usually is in a lot of his fights. You know, he kind of like was a little bit more reserved. Okay. Now the question is, you know, and I'll say this again. I'm one that, you know, I said this many times on this channel that I believe the only people that could beat Gervonta Tank Davis right now is Shakur Stevenson and Devin Haney. Now, to be real, I was basing a lot of that, as far as Devin Haney goes, I was basing that on watching Devin fight. See, that's the thing about boxing, man. When you see a fighter that you like and you see how good he looks against certain fighters that's not really on his level, you can really see, like, you know, what do you really expect? You're going to expect him to smoke these dudes. Jojo Diaz, George Kambosos, Yoriokas Gamboa, you know, Jorge Linares. And Linares gave him a good one. But the problem I have is I have to probably step back on it. I don't have after seeing what I saw against Lomachenko, I don't think Devin Haney beats Tank at all. He might even get KO'd in that fight. I'm keeping it all the way real with y'all. That's just how I see it. He was touched up. He got touched with some shit in that fight. Now, this is boxing, I understand. But people always saying that they always compare him to Floyd Mayweather and all this other stuff. You know, he's no Floyd Mayweather. He's not. He's not Floyd Mayweather. He's not anywhere near close to Floyd Mayweather. As far as I can see. He has okay defense. But a lot of his fluid movements just seem so repetitive. Like I was saying, look like somebody can really time him. And they time him, somebody with some power or real, you know, sharp ass skills and can get him out of there, man. And I like Dev, man. I still like Dev. He got the win. Even if he didn't get the win, you know, I wouldn't take nothing from him. But I just don't think he beats Tank, man. There's not many fighters from 135 to 140 that's gonna beat Tank, man. It's just not. Now Shakur looked good against certain fighters too. At this point, I would still have to say Shakur has a good chance. I always say Shakur had a better chance of beating Tank than Devin does. I think it might be safe to say, and we have to see how Shakur looks against somebody too. Like when he has to fight like somebody like that's on Tank's level, or we got to see those type of fights so we can really see how Shakur would look if that was Tank, you know, shit like that. But as it stands, I think the only people that beats Tank is Shakur. The only person that beats Shakur is Tank. I think they beat each other, you know. But Devin Haney retains his belts. Loma walks away with a big cookie under his eye. Devin Haney walks away with his 4 straps. I think his nose got busted up, his lip. but he came out victorious. Gotta respect that still. So let me know what y'all thought about this fight. Devin Haney versus Vasily Lomachenko. And what's next for Devin? We don't know. He said they got to go back to the drawing board. So we'll see. But anyway, I'm off this. I'll catch y'all later. I'm off this. Out. Peace.